Top lane is usually a mindless island where two beefy dudes punch each other until the other one falls over. And then there is Shen. While other top laners are playing a fighting game, Shen is playing a strategy game. But the real kicker? He's the only top laner who wins the game by leaving the lane. I also have a terrible map awareness and borderline initiation experience, so it's time for some spiritual awakening. Here is how. Fuck around and find out, do some research, and continue fucking around anyway. Let's dive in. My first game was against Darius. Right off the bat, I made a very rookie mistake, staying AFK under my tower. Because of that, I could not set up my Q and I had to play on the back foot. Then this little trade happened and I was like, Shen does that much damage? And I solo killed Darius level 3? Was? However, I still needed to be very careful, especially after 6, because Shen's ultimate is reserved for teammates. And I really quickly came across my first bot lane experience. I will let you make the judgment. This game continued all like that. Take a trade, find a pick, and occasionally ult my teammates. I tried my best, but I'm not used to checking lanes every 3 seconds. And I'm especially not used to utilizing F keys. To me, they seem to be at a very uncomfortable position. To be fair, I messed up plenty of my ultis, my CS was not all that great, and many more, but from the first game I learned one thing. I must take teleport. This champion has basically 0 wave clear until Tiamat, and even then, it's not all that great. Since I don't control the wave state, I must somehow compensate, and TP is the only solution I have in mind. It worked more or less fine as my next games went mostly smoothly. Playing against Stinge was very chill. Then I faced Mordekaiser, which seemed scary at first. But Shen is surprisingly good in the early game, apparently. After those first few games I realized Shen has insane level 2 kill potential. There is literally no way you can mess it up. By the way, I also encountered the quest, Zed on the enemy team. I did not even remember it was in the game, and it got me pretty tensed up. Like, sometimes I prayed the guy I ulted would die before my ult went off, so it did not count towards the quest. Eventually I won and I got the plus 30% on the passive shield. Pretty huge if you ask me, but she doesn't agree. That's probably why she left. Ironically, I was getting better at Shen, but not that much better at watching the map. I kept forgetting it, I missed minions because of it, and many more. Sometimes I held my ult for way too long, like long enough that my teammate died and I could not ult shit, and even lost a minion in the process. The initial hours, still, were not as bad as I thought. I randomly remembered I have seen someone getting coached on Shen about the sword placement and early laning, which gave me some advantages. Although I fucked up a lot and did not ult all that much, I was off a decent start. Overall, I would rate my skills like so. Since I think I'm actually improving on my own, I'm gonna postpone watching his guides. The huge plus I have is knowing Shen is about the sword placement. As simple and obvious as it sounds, I don't think most people understand that consciously. Both my damage and my peeling capability depend on that lil pad, and it's not as intuitive as it seems. By now, I semi-realized a few things. If I wanna do real damage, my Q must go through enemies. This also ensures they can't escape all that easily. Then, if I wanna peel a teammate, I either should taunt enemies on me or W on my teammate. To do that, I need to move my sword on them either by Q or by ult. That creates a conflict. I either peel or do damage. If I W on an ally, I have no damage without my Q, and on top of that, my Q is in unlikely position to go through the enemy. If I engage with my EQ to guarantee my Q hits, I am left with absolutely zero tools to peel or back off. It's a full commit time. I also noticed a very interesting dynamic on the lane too. I need to trade with an alternating pattern. I either take a bad trade to set up my Q, or utilize the previously set up Q for a good trade, leaving it in a bad position. So it's like a good trade into an intentional bad trade. Looks like Shen has a lot more depth than I thought initially. To perform with Shen, I must first be very mindful of my HP because I can set up my reset without wave clear. Second, track my passive to trade optimally. Third, watch the whole map to help my team. Shen can solo carry, and I will lose most of my games if I don't get my team ahead. And fourth, account for the wave state when determining what to do with my Q. What exactly do I mean with account for the wave state for Q placement? Consider the wave is pushing away from you. If you take a bad trade to set up your Q, congrats, you just wasted your health. By the time you are ready for your next trade, the wave will be past your Q again, and you will need to set it up once more. The opposite is true if the wave is pushing into you. The wave will naturally fix your Q placement for you, setting up another good Q without taking a bad trade. And that's not all. Even though Shen is one of the champs where I felt like I was improving drastically, I found more tips and tricks in the guides. More about that later. For now, I'm struggling with winning my games. I came out winning, or at least even in pretty much all of the games so far, yet halfway through the challenge, I'm at 3 wins out of the first 9 games. Pretty bad if you ask me. Look at some of those games for example. Sometimes I give up my WoW lane to save my bot lane. Other times I save my lane and get flamed by the bot lane for not ulting them. My team fighting sucks a lot as well. I could not manage my spells all that well. Here and there I did not ult when needed, and other times I ulted preemptively. The main point is, even though I was improving, I was making mistakes left and right. Yet, I remember being somewhat satisfied with my gameplay. This just proves my point, I guess. If I was satisfied with it in the moment, and now I find mistakes and I dislike it, I suppose I truly improved over the challenge. However, losing games was no fun. I looked up the guides, and of course the Xpetu was one of the first to come up. I also remember Shening help from Magurin streams, and it turns out those two have a collab video on a Shen guide. If you want a short summary of Shen, you can watch that 3-minute quick guide. But if you are more passionate, you can check this full 1-hour ultimate Shen guide from Xpetu and Shening help. By the way, pretty cool name. So, the main takeaways from the guide. When setting up Q, place it as close to you as possible. For example, I always set up my Q before the waves arrived, but I set it up too behind, or move too far from the enemy before casting it. Use E flash or Q flash for the unexpected combos. That's pretty popular by now, but still extremely effective. Very effective, indeed. You don't need F keys to watch your teammates. Utilize more of your brain. First, scan the health bars above the minimap. If any one of them is dropping rapidly, quickly check the minimap to scan what's going on. And if it looks like an all-out fight, hover over them to see if they need your ult. Q delay. Remains coming all over the screen right now, but hear me out. Shen also has a Q delay. His Q autos last for quite a while. You can cast Q, do nothing, save your autos, engage when your Q has roughly 3 seconds cooldown left, and do another Q mid-fight, giving you a total of 6 empowered autos instead of 3. They never expect that much damage, and you will probably secure a few kills that way. There were a lot more good tips and tricks in the video, and you probably already know Xpetu if you watch Shen content, but still, check the video. It's a good watch, even though it's over 3 years old by now. With all that knowledge, my confidence went further up. Not only because I realized I found out most of those by myself, but now I had a real, tangible evidence I was improving. I started queuing better, utilizing Q delay even more, became a lot more aware on the map, saw potential fights earlier, was more prepared to ult, and many more. My service remained unavailable in Brazil, but other than that, I was fine. One huge skill I acquired was proper macro knowledge. I considered Shen to be a teamfight, support-like top laner. Turns out I was wrong. I never took his side laning all that seriously because of how little pushing power he has, but apparently that's changed since now his Q applies to the towers too. Also, the enemies usually responded to match my lane, leaving the other side of the map 4v4, or one could say 5v4 because of my ult. That exactly is the game changer part. Me not grouping mindlessly anymore got me in a much better position. I would usually go on the opposite side of the current objective and tell my team to not be afraid of fighting. If someone showed up on my lane, I would ping my ult and tell them to engage. If not, I would ask them to play slowly and let me put some pressure on the map. This worked surprisingly well. Not only did I become a lot more dominant during the laning phase, but I also felt like a mastermind behind all of the plays. It's like my mechanics and Shen's playstyle were finally starting to match and become automatic. This freed up my mental space and allowed me to focus on how the enemy played the matchup. Look at this, for example. He does W and then he E's out. You know what this means? I can hold my E for like half a second when he W's. And it will give me... oh boy. Ooh. That's what I was waiting for. How do you escape this one now? I also became better at influencing the whole map. I always felt like ulting bot was better than ulting jungle or mid, but did not understand exactly why. Now I do. Not only I influenced a lane of 2 people instead of 1, but I also can pass mid lane on my way to top, and sneak in a gank if the enemy mid lane does not respect my presence. I gave up a plate or 2 for such plays, but in the grand scheme of things, my team got quite a bit ahead. All of those tiny or major changes led to my win rate skyrocketing. I learned how to play bad matchups better and how to convert a lead into a win. Stepping into the final game, I had 5 wins in a row. I was against Mundo once more, ready to redeem myself after the previous loss. Perfect start, crazy good trades, and flawless mechanics. Doesn't matter, it's not even that bad. Now I can snowball a huge wave, set up a dive, and make him lose more minions. Thankfully, he threw his own lead. And I guess 6-pack strategies do indeed work. After that, it was a pretty standard laning. I took this tiny lead and snowballed it into a huge impact on the whole map. As I said, you always want to get your team ahead as Shen. Sooner or later, Shen becomes relatively weak, and you will need a lot of help to win the game. That's exactly what happened. I helped my carry so much you might find me on that Einstein or something list. This was to ensure we could kill hyper tanks later on, and it worked just fine. This game was really intense, just perfect for the final game. I was playing so well, indeed helping everyone, peeling for everyone, placing my Ws quite well, ulting in the heat of a fight, frontlining, taking focus on myself through the taunt, and sometimes even cancelling Sion's Qs with it. Finally, I felt like a true Ashen Guardian. The game did not cool down for a single second in those 40 minutes, but sadly there is only so much I can include in the video. If you want to see the full games, try catching me on Twitch. But the game did not end all that well. The enemy team just grouped 5 mid and ran it down as we had just a single Nexus tower standing. Nonetheless, I'm actually satisfied. From 3 wins and 6 losses to 8 wins and 7 losses. And I actually felt like I played out of my mind in the last game, so I feel fine. After all, my concern was about improving as Shen, and I think I did improve a lot. I would say my skills look so in the end. How would I rate Shen? I think he's surprisingly satisfying to play with. Or I only felt that way because of my luxurious skin. The sound effects, the visuals, and the Q auto smoothness are really good. And the ult sound is just pure eargasm. For the more hardcore players though, here is an actual review. Shen seems solid. Your only concern resource-wise is HP, as you basically never run out of energy, especially if you hit Q autos. He's very lane dominant, even if most of the top lane roster counters him. This dominance, I suppose, comes from them having no idea how to play against you. You also have a huge global influence through your ult and TP combo. However, everything has a drawback. Ulting away leaves your lane vulnerable. Being a support-like top laner means you can't solo carry. And most importantly, unlike the typical solo laners, you have absolutely zero wave clear. This is a huge deal on a solo lane, as you can set up your resets properly. With Ignite you have an insane kill pressure, but teleport is basically a necessity with a wave clear like that. Overall, I would put Shen at maybe 7 out of 10. I could have said 6 or 7 out of 10, but I did not, and I hope you will appreciate that. If you liked the video, please drop a like. If you did not like the video, please comment why. I appreciate your feedback, and your engagement means a lot for a channel of my size. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.